Okay, good afternoon. This is Carlos with another KW session with um, our, uh, our our open mic session today. I'd like to introduce a multi-awarded person in KW with 2 decades of experience in real estate investing, a consistent awardee, Keller Williams individual agent in 2011, 2015, 2019, and a Keller Williams individual agent globally for 2020. I'd like to introduce no one else, no other than Mr. James Benson. Hi,
Hey,
James.
hey, how are you?
So, what do you have in store for us today?
I, I really just wanted to give people the opportunity to really just get into my mind and ask whatever questions they need or think or feel. There's so much that I guess kind of goes into the real estate journey, and everyone's at different stages. And there's always learnings for everybody. There could be people that are a little further down the road that are going to teach people on this call that are maybe a year or two behind them, or really it just I want to give people access to kind of everything that's going on in my mind to see how I can help them. And you never really know how to best help someone until they kind of give you kind of what they're working on or what they're struggling with. So I really just wanted to make it pretty open that way. I do want to avoid kind of drama sessions or kind of any whining kind of stuff like that. But if there's any problems or challenges that people are facing, we want to talk about those challenges. That's great.
Constructive, optimistic, something to move forward. So let's just cover the rules for the game here, for the event. You can raise your hand, you can type on chat, but feel free to open your mic, just one at a time, of course, and then share your thoughts and let's discuss. Anyone want to start? Mr. James, do you have what's on your mind, Mr. James?
From my mind?
Yeah, like just to get things started, I suppose.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. I mean, I think when I look back to how things kind of began for me, I'll give everyone a little bit of background for me, just so they kind of understand maybe a little bit about me, and hopefully that'll pop some questions up for people. I started full-time in real estate May 14th, 2010 was my first day in real estate. I quit my full-time job at PepsiCo. I was an account manager there, which is kind of like sales, but I was more focused on the data analytics side of things. And that's scary enough, I guess, quitting your job. But my daughter was due to be born 3 weeks after I quit my job. So I had this nice stable job where I knew I could make enough money for the family. I quit, and just, I guess, never looked back. I had the first 6 months it was kind of like being shot out of a cannon. I did 44 deals in my first 6 months, and life was pretty hectic. It was pretty crazy, but we got through it. From there, every year I've just been kind of building more and learning a little bit more based on all the mistakes that I make and the things that happen. And you learn how to I guess grow and get better and kind of go from there. Throughout the years, I'd shifted a big chunk of my business off to the investment side of things for a while. I found it really much easier for me to talk to people about investments. And it was a way also where we could get people to transact. So I think whenever you go and you're working with a client, or you're trying to work with a new client, you're trying to work with a lead, I think we've all made phone calls, we've all talked to people, and we've all tried to find out if they need some help finding a home. And oftentimes what we get told is, no, I don't need a home right now. I just moved last year. I just moved 2 years ago. And I think the tendency is for a lot of us to almost take that personally sometimes. My skin maybe wasn't quite thick enough back in the day. And so I thought, well, not everyone needs another home, but everyone needs an investment property. Every single person needs another property that's going to make them more money, because no client ever complains when you make them money. Some clients, they will complain about commission when you list their home, or we've all had the ones that ask for commission rebates when you help them buy a home, etc. But when I focus my business on helping people make more money, the conversation changed, because not only was I able to sell their house every time that came up, every 5 years, every 7 years, whatever that may be, but every year, every other year, we could have a conversation. Sometimes on the client, several times a year, we can have the conversation of how can I help you make more money? How can I help you invest? And as I look back over the years, I've literally made over 100 people a total of $1 million since 2015. So it's kind of neat to look back and think, you've helped people really, really grow wealth. I know some of the people on this call, I recognize some of the names. They've worked with me on some of the investment deals that I put together. They've helped their clients into them as well. And I think just understanding what those clients bought for and what things are selling for now. I mean, I think, the people on this call, their clients have made a minimum of $200,000 in the past 2 years just by working with some of the investments that we've structured. So it's a fun journey. It's a really, really fun journey. But I guess while we're on that, I think, maybe talking about rejection, that's something I think a lot of people face in this business. And it's hard to, I'm not a master of it. It still hurts. It still doesn't feel great. But just like everyone else, I still have to talk myself through it. And the way I kind of remind myself, or the story I tell myself to kind of help myself over that little hump is, I think about Christmas dinner. And Christmas dinner is one of those times you get together with your family and you eat as much food as you possibly can every single year. I mean, you've got the mashed potatoes, you've got the turkey, if you don't have to undo your top button on your pants for Christmas dinner, just to make a little extra room for your stomach, you haven't done Christmas dinner right. But if at the end of Christmas dinner, when you've filled yourself entirely full and you could not need any more food, if I showed up with a beautiful steak dinner and I said, would you like this steak dinner? You would say no. And I told myself that's the same thing as when I go to help somebody, or when I ask somebody if they need help finding a home or selling a home, and they tell me no. Just because they say no to me, they're not necessarily rejecting me. They could be full. They just bought a house. They don't need a house. Their kids have just left. They need less room, more room, whatever it is. I really try and make it about the real estate needs that are saying no. They're not saying no to me. They're saying no to real estate at this time, which again is how I got into the real estate investing. Is because you can say no to me for your personal house all you want, but you're not going to say no to making more money. So let's talk about making you more money. And over the years, I guess those clients have just kind of come back. So the investment side was almost born kind of out of the fact that I didn't like rejection. Were there any questions so far?
Any thoughts, reactions? As Diane Mitchell once said, reactions or hallucinations? Go ahead, kind of open your mic, and again, it's an open mic session. This is awesome because we're seeing 43 people in the room. This is like thousands, millions of years of real estate experience right here. So let's get started. Anyone has a question?
No one's got any challenges or struggles or anything going on in their business? There we go.
Ms. Joanna, go ahead. Hi, Joanna.
Yes, I was trying to unmute myself and also turn on my video. So one question I have for James is that, do you try to motivate people to invest, or do you find the right people who are already motivated and wants to make a move? Because that's the one fine line that I struggle. Because in the past, I have investment properties, but I don't have as much as you do. So my friends, they do know that I invest, and they will come to me and ask me questions. But after I show them some houses, they just kind of lose the motivation. And one of the other agents, he's pretty experienced, and then he actually told me, this person, he doesn't have a true motivation, and you're just wasting your time. So how do you qualify whether or not they are just wasting your time, or they will be somebody who is actually motivated and wants to make a move?
Good question. It's a really good question. I think motivation comes down to all aspects of our business: the investment side, the regular resale side, the buying and selling. Like, everyone needs a motivation. I think that's one of the first things they teach you in BOLD is, creating urgency and creating motivation. I'll start off by saying that if you get 10 people that are looking to buy real estate, they're not all going to transact. For so many, there's so much fear. There's fear around, what if I can't get a tenant? What if I can't get the rent you say I'm going to get? What if there's a vacancy? That they go down this death spiral of all the negative things that can happen. Very rarely do they go into the spiral of, oh, I could make $10,000 next month in appreciation. I could make $10,000 every month in appreciation. They don't necessarily go there. But the first thing I like to do with people, or the first thing I like to keep in mind is, if A is I just want to learn how to invest, or I want to learn about investing, and Z is I'm buying an investment property, sometimes you have to move someone from A to M, and they have to hang out at M for 6 months. Like, they're not ready to go all the way yet, and that's okay. The big thing is that you continue to have the conversations and people will transact when they're ready. But to answer your question about how you can create more urgency, one of the things we started doing last year was we would email out to the database letting them know about an investment opportunity. And we started getting a good amount of leads coming back. Like towards the end of last year, we double-ended 3 deals just because we came across some investment listings and we put them out. We found the investment buyers. There were enough people in the database that were able to kind of get it going. But people need to see that other people are investing and that other people are investing with you. So obviously they know you invest. If they see other people are doing it, the fear of missing out will start to eat at them a little bit, and that will create opportunity, or it will at least create the opportunity for you to have yet another conversation with them, because you may have moved them from A to M. Maybe now you can move them down to S, and they may not be ready for another year after that. But eventually everybody is ready. So the first thing to keep in mind is you're just trying to further people's knowledge, for further people's comfort. The second thing that really helps when you do is you take a lot of the scariness out of it for them. So what I mean by that is most people, they want to buy an investment. They don't want to buy another job, right? So they're a landlord. If you can keep their jobs as a landlord to cashing checks, they're going to be happiest. If they have to do with a lot of maintenance, if they have to deal with property management, if they have to deal with finding a tenant, if they have to do all these other things, their heads, they don't know how to do it, and their heads kind of get crazy and they talk themselves out of it. So one of the things that you can absolutely do to help people kind of move through that fear cycle is helping them just in terms of saying, hey, by the way, for all my clients, I rent out, your first 2 years, I'll rent it for you for free. So you put a lease listing on MLS, you do the credit screening, whatever it is, and you have them pay the sellers or the buyer side commission or the leasing agent's commission. You may list it for free for 1 or 2 years, not a big deal at all. But it just shows them that you're going to help them take care of it. You're going to get them up and running, because they don't know how to handle that, or they may not know how to handle that. And that again is the scariest part. So I think if you can let them know that you offer them, this full turnkey service of, we'll do the lease up for you, we'll do all these things. I think it can make it easier for them. So you show them that they're missing out on opportunities, because when your clients do deals, you make sure the rest of your clients know that your clients are doing deals. Number 2, you make it turnkey, you make it easy, so that they don't feel stressed out. And number 3, sometimes you need to remind people. You need to remind people that how much money they're making or not making by being invested. I mean, if we looked at the Toronto Real Estate Board last year, if you're investing in Toronto, does anyone know offhand how much the market went up by last year? If anyone can just drop that into the comment.
24.2%.
How much? 24 or 44?
24.2% year over year.
So on a $500,000 property, someone would have made what, like 50,000, 58,000, something like that? A $1 million property. Actually, no more than that.
$800 a day.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And so I think, it's neat when you show that math to people. One of the things I often talk to my clients about, and I'm joking when I say it, but I'm not at the same time. I said, if I could put you in my car and take you anywhere, and you choose a property, and I'll get that property for you 80% off, how many of you would buy it? Everyone puts up their hand. Everyone, absolutely everyone. And then I say, great. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a property. You're going to buy it. You're going to put down 20%. And then I'm going to have the tenant put down the other 80% for you. The tenant's actually going to pay off the rest of the property. And it's really the best wealth hack that you can have. It's someone else is going to pay for 80% of your business expenses, plus give you cash flow. Like it's an amazing thing when you start working with investors. It's great. So again, show them how much money they're moving, they're losing or not making by not taking action. Show them that your clients are doing deals. Show them that it's easy, and just keep repeating, and just with the same mindset, keep talking to people and keep talking about real estate. You get cornered at parties. What's happening in the real estate market? Oh, it's amazing right now. We've got so many different investment deals going on. My clients have been doing so well over the past years. There's the stories, like I have stories that I can tell, funny stories, because when you start working with enough clients, I helped a client into 2 investment properties like 3 years ago. And I called him and I said, by the way, you're up about 380,000 right now. And he laughed and said, thank you, and went out and bought a Corvette, because he realized how much money he'd made. So the little stories like that can be kind of fun stories to share at parties and things like that, where, you're selling, but you're not selling. You're just telling, experiences of other investors and things like that. And then over time, people want to dive in. everyone wants to invest in real estate. They don't know how, and they're generally scared. They think investment properties are these secret looking properties that no one really knows about, but they're just properties that that we can figure out how to put tenants in. And the last thing that I would really encourage you to do, and this goes for resale or for investment, screen your clients, like screen them. So, you know, if they don't have a mortgage approval, or if they're not willing to have a mortgage approval, or if they're being kind of held back or secretive about it, they're probably not someone I'm going to spend a lot of time working with. You know, you want to work with people that are ready to go and really want to do deals. So I think just doing that background research and allowing them to take the steps. If they're not going to take the steps to get a mortgage, there's no way they're actually going to pull the trigger on a property. They can't even pull the trigger on a mortgage broker. If you're excited enough to buy a property, you're going to go get pre-qualified. Does that help, Joanna?
Yes, actually, I did use your line already just yesterday. Last time when I heard you present, my favorite thing that I took away from your presentation was, if you buying a house for 20%, I mean 80% off, would you buy it? So
Yeah.
I did use that line already, and I just used it yesterday. So thank you.
No problem at all. No problem.
All right, you have the next question from Boris. Well, just insert Amanda here just asked, is Larry over or under par? So I'll let you answer, Larry, on chat there. But Boris, go ahead.
Hey, how are ya? That was really wonderful to hear. I'm a new agent. I literally started just a few days ago signing with Keller Williams Advantage Realty, and I'm going to be working with one of my very, very good friends who suggested this talk. And as someone who's basically kind of starting out, I'm really super green. I've been playing on the Treb side. I've really been enjoying Stratus. The first few conversations that you have with a potential client, when you're trying to like establish rapport, disarm them a little bit, because right now, you know, in the pandemic, we're reading about like just before real estate and after getting licensed, you're like, how are you going to enter a market that is increasing so much in revenue and value and whatnot? And some people are like, I'll never be able to come into that market. What sort of like reassuring conversations can you have with a potential client or a customer to reassure them and kind of garner a client in that way?
Okay. So I think that there's two things here. Obviously, we all want to attract clients. It sounded to me, and if this is wrong, I need you to correct me. It sounded to me like you were saying, I want to get a client, or I want to have a relationship with someone now, and I hope someday they can transact. Does that sound?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's like how to build and let that network kind of spider web out.
Okay. So, you know, the first thing I like to think of is my job is to get somebody into a home. My job is much easier today than it will be in 6 months. If the real estate market keeps climbing up the way it does, and if stuff goes, you know, higher and higher in price, you're never going to outsave the market. You're never going to pack away a big enough down payment to actually let it grow and get more. Like, you can't play the catch up game. I've had clients that say, oh, you know, I've got 10% saved up, but I want to get to 20 so I don't have to pay any CMHC. And it's like, okay, well, let's analyze the CMHC costs on this. If we look at you getting a CMHC insured mortgage today, that's going to cost you $20,000 in fees. If the price point you're looking at is $1 million or $999,900, you know, CMHC mortgage under $1 million, and the market goes up, I don't know, 2% next year, you're not going to get there. Like, you're falling behind. You cannot outsave the market. You know, people will say, oh, I want a mortgage with big prepayment options. You know, they don't think it through. They think they want this thing, but when they actually sit down and run the math, it's different. So if you have $1 million mortgage and you want a 25% prepayment privilege as opposed to 15% prepayment privilege, you know, $150,000 worth of $250 versus $250,000. People want to be able to pay down more. For you to come up with an extra $250,000, or even an extra $150,000 in a year, your client has to mysteriously earn an extra $300. So then when they get taxed by 50%, they're down to $150. Now they can make the mortgage payment. Very few people are actually in a situation where they're going to earn an extra 300 grand next year, let alone an extra 500 grand next year. So people make make these decisions emotionally. The decision to save more, or I hope to get in the market someday. Stop hoping. Hoping will never get you anywhere. And it's, one of the things that we need to do as agents, have really honest conversations with the client. Sometimes clients take them really personally. You really want to be sensitive to people's emotions and their triggers. But if you're letting them think, oh, someday I'll get into the market, and you hope someday that they'll transact, you're not serving the client. You're not doing what's in their best interest. One of the things that we've been talking more to our clients about now, and I had a conversation with Mike this morning about this, was, as our clients want more and more in the East End, but they're starting to get priced out. It's like, great, where can we take them? Because, oh, I want to buy in the East End, or I want to buy in Leslieville. What's your budget? $1 million. Good luck. You're not going to get there. So are we going to sit there and let them wallow on the fact they couldn't get into Leslieville, or do we have to find another option for them? Because if they're in the market, they're at least riding it up. I don't care if you get in the market in Kitchener. I don't care if you get in the market in Guelph. I don't care where you get in the market, but you need to get in the market, because you're not going to outsave it. And so it's one of those things. Maybe, I can sit and rent a spot, no problem, as long as I have another property that someone else is paying for. It's like, it doesn't matter to me. If they were able to find a property that was out of town, even if it was an investment, they're looking for their own personal residence. If they can't get it, maybe you can help them into an investment, so that as the market goes up, they're going up, and now they can start saving, but they're also going up with the market. So they have two forces working for them, as opposed to just their one weak force, which is never going to get there. So I guess, how can you work with these folks? Be honest with them, deliver them the news, look for different options. If they start making emotional decisions like, oh, I'm going to try and save more to get into this market, which we know isn't going to work, then show them the math. People will understand it if you actually show them the numbers. Sit down and calculate the price of the home they want to buy, how much the market appreciation was last year. Maybe last year being 24% is too high. Maybe divide it in half, and then divide it in half again, and show them that you've cut it in half, twice versus what it was last year, and show them that the math still doesn't work. When people see the numbers, they tend to be able to see stuff like that. They may not like it. They may not like it emotionally, but they can see it. So much about real estate is our ability to deal with clients and connect with them emotionally and develop and form relationships. So, a lot of people that are in real estate are in it because they have amazing personalities. I'm dry as toast. I never had that quote unquote amazing personality. So I always went back and I relied on those numbers. I see some laughs there. Thanks, Tina. But it's one of those things where if you sit down and you actually show people things logically, they can go, and don't get me wrong, not everyone likes logic. And I get accused of being robotic a lot. That's just me. It's who I am. That's fine. But I think there are times where I need to be more personable, just like there's times where someone's more personable needs to be more data focused or more analytical. But when you show someone the numbers, and you show them that they're going to get left behind if they keep doing what they're doing, then you can have a different conversation with them about how they don't get left behind. You come with a solution, which is your job because you're the realtor, and you show them a different area. And it's okay. It's your for now home. It's not your forever home. Like if someone is struggling to get into the market, they're not buying their dream home. And I have that conversation with people a lot. And I use that line. It's your for now home. It's not your forever home. And go out of that way. We can look at opportunities in this house. How can we add value to it? Well, great. We could renovate the kitchen. We could renovate the bathroom, do whatever we need to do. How can we add value to this? How can we make your next purchase an investment? It's your own home, but we can turn it into an investment, not into one area you wanted to be in, but you can get there. You can get there eventually, really just focusing on getting them into the market. And it's, if we're doing it because we want to collect the commission check, it feels wrong, and it's going to come out. Like the way we talk, the way we act, everything, just if it's about the commission, it's wrong. But if you actually sit down and if you've run the numbers, it will come from the right place, because in your heart that your client is never going to get a home by saying, I'm never going to get a home in this market. Like prices aren't going to miraculously come down. The CIBC's chief deputy economist, Benjamin Tall, I think about a year and a half ago on a call said, if you think Toronto real estate is expensive now, wait 10 years. So I think it's going to get nuts. But the neat thing is, if you can't go in Toronto, if Toronto prices go up, all the areas around will also kind of think of it like a pyramid. If Toronto's the peak, then the further you get out, the prices will still be high. And eventually you'll get out to Chatham or Windsor, things like that, and it'll be nice and low. But it's about getting your clients into the market. It's about giving them solutions. I think one of the things that people get caught in the trap of is, they don't guide their clients. So your client says, want to buy a home, and you show them homes and you hope someday they're going to say, hey, let's make an offer on one. It doesn't typically work that way. So when you're in a home, it can be asking them, what do you like about this home? What do you not like about this home? If they say, well, I don't like the fact that it's next to train tracks or hydro wires, no problem. We can't change those things, so we're out of here. If they don't like the color, if they don't like the kitchen, you can have a conversation. It's an opportunity to have a conversation of, we could actually grow your net worth and make you a lot of money. If we plan out a very easy kitchen renovation here, it's actually not as hard as intimidating as you think. You'd then get to enjoy the kitchen. You'd raise the value of your home. And then when you went to sell it, you'd put more beautiful tax-free dollars in your pocket. How does that sound? You want to have that conversation? Yeah, I want to have that conversation. Good. But it's you actively have to really push people through. And I've gone through phases in my career when I'm really, really good at asking questions and really good at guiding clients. And typically when I've been in those zones, I never had a client last more than 3 weeks. They're always in, done, bought, next. If you are just kind of like there and you're opening doors and unlocking lock boxes and going in and hoping, those clients drag on for months, sometimes years. Until you can learn how to create that urgency and push people and show people what their next step is, then I think we tend to fumble and go a lot through that process of just kind of riding it. They're looking to us for guidance. This is what they need us to open our mouths and to talk to them about all the things that they don't know, all the things they haven't figured out. And again, just jumping back to that, the CMHC costs or the fact that they'll miss the market if they don't act properly. And if they can't afford Toronto, where can we afford so you're not falling behind? When you can start having those honest conversations with clients, I think in the long term, they respect you quite a bit more. Did that help? Did I answer your question, or did I answer?
That was amazing. I could hug you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm going to turn it over to my good friend here, Miss Dina. Go ahead.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks, James, for being here. So my question is, what advice do you have for an agent at this time, given the current climate that we're in with the pandemic and all? What advice do you have for an agent that might not have a big database, or, like Boris is just starting out, so he doesn't have a repeat and referral to rely on? The traditional methods of lead gen are not necessarily available. So what areas of focus would you recommend for that new agent in order to get out there and to earn some new business?
Well, I think the first question I would ask myself is, what methods of lead gen are available? We know the stuff that's not, like door knocking might be a little bit funny right now. Open houses are I think a hard no. When I first started calling, I just started calling friends, and I used that first script from Bold. And if anyone's ever taken Bold, they know that, the one they kind of give you on the first day. And I just started asking everyone I knew, who do they know if they were looking to buy, sell, or invest? And if they said no, it's who do you know that might know someone that's looking to buy, sell, or invest? And I just went down that rabbit hole, and I kept going on with that script for probably 3 to 4 months after Bold there. And yeah, I started doing a lot of deals off of it. So the phones are still available. And when you call people, you don't have to hit them and be super salesy. If you feel uncomfortable in your first phone call, it's okay. You're going to feel uncomfortable a lot in this business, and you're going to feel very uncomfortable when you're doing lead generation in the beginning, and you're going to suck at it at first. Like you're going to blow call. It just is reality. It's like, the analogy I give is like when you first learned to walk, you were terrible. You fell down, you tripped, you face planted, you couldn't stand up. But as you do it over time, you get good at it. I had this conversation with my daughter the other day, because that's, it's one of the concepts we talk about, is just continuously putting in effort and growing. And she changed schools this year, so she's no longer in French immersion. So she goes into French. It's all these kids' first year in French. She's done 6 years in French, and she's realizing how much better she is at it. And it's like, well, yeah, you spent time doing this. You spent time on task over time, essentially. So lead gen's the same way. Understand you're going to have awful calls and they're going to feel terrible. Understand that you're going to say the wrong things. Understand that you're going to fail at times. But it's about failing forward. You're going to fail a lot in this business, and you should fail a lot. It's kind of funny. If you make 100 phone calls, you should probably get 2 of them to be agreeable, which means 98% of the time, it's not going to be a good call. So if you can wrap your head around that, but that's normal. So winning 2 out of 100 is normal. Winning 4 out of 100 would be a phenomenal day or a phenomenal week. That would be absolutely insane. Like if you set 4 listing appointments in 1 week, that's absolutely bananas good. But I think you just need to understand that A, when you are doing your lead gen, you're going to fail. It's going to feel terrible. But it's, coming back, it's not about you. It's timing. Those 98 people weren't looking to make a move, or their brother was a realtor, and those things are hard to overcome. So I think it's just the advice is A, just have a thick skin and don't take things personally. It's not about you. It's about the client. If the client doesn't need you, they don't need you, and you don't need to take that personally. And then managing your expectations. 2 out of 100. If you're hitting 2 out of 100 phone calls, you're doing great. It's going to feel, again, it feels rough. It feels bad. You get rejected 98 times, but those numbers are absolutely phenomenal. And those people that can kind of wrap their head around that will do really, really well. So I think, for someone new, I'd say the phones. If you can't do anything else, get on the phone, start making calls. Maybe the first call to your friends is just a check-in call. Say, hey, how you doing? What's going? That was one of the things that we did when COVID started. It was just calling clients and saying, hey, how you doing? You okay? Checking with them, see do you need anything? One of the things I started to offer my clients back then is I have a giant database. I have 29,000 people in my database now. If you need anything, or if you need a certain type of professional, call me first, because good chance I have them already in my database or have the relationships that I can help find them for you. So if you need anything at all, I want you to call me. It doesn't have to be real estate related. I want you to call me. And so when you open up the communication like that, and you've offered something to someone with no strings attached, you've just given them the opportunity to call you. You've given them something. One of the concepts that we talk about, again, on our team is coming from contribution. Before you pick up the phone and call somebody, you better know what you're going to give them. Whether it's information, whether it's solds on the street, whether it's, something to follow up from last time, doesn't matter what it is, call and give them something. And then typically they respond in kind if possible. So I guess I'd look at what lead gen sources are available. For me, it was phones. It's not the most in fashion thing these days. I think people like to social media and do all kinds of stuff. I've never really gotten into it. So I would find out what you can do and just do it. And B, understand it's going to be hard. Your success rate is not going to be 9 out of 10 or anything that you're used to getting in school, B's, C's. Like, you're going to have a quote unquote failing grade, because 2 out of 100 doesn't feel that good, but it's actually great. So remember that, and then just get really comfortable failing. Like, you're only going to get better if you're putting in the reps. If you're trying it and failing, and you just keep tweaking and keep changing little things as you go along, eventually one will land. Oh, great. And then, over time you'll get better, but it's really about just going out and doing it. And I've only seen one agent in 10 years actually go out and do it properly. He would go and he just hit the phones. And then one day he came running into the office, panicked. He's like, I got a listing. I don't know what to do now. Most agents go, well, I need to know how to load a listing, or they'd ask a lot of questions about all these things that don't matter because they don't have a listing, and they don't have any listing appointments set, but they're focused on, when I get a listing, what do? I gotta be ready. I gotta be ready is just an excuse for not lead generating. But this guy was great. He literally did everything that Gary said he should do. And that was, he just went out lead gen until he had the problem of a need to learn how to load a listing. And so there's someone that's always going to be available to do that. And then I think the one overlying concept, or the one other thing that I would recommend to any new agent, is we at Keller Williams, it doesn't matter if you're from this company or not. I mean, when you look at Gary Keller, he's one of the smartest people in the industry. And I don't know how many times I've looked back over the years and said, God, I wish I just listened to him. Because there's certain things you go off and you do on your own, you think you're doing right. And then it comes back and it bites you. And you think, oh yeah, Gary said this would happen. And so I have this need where I need to understand everything. And so I analyze everything to death. And then sometimes I think I'm smarter. Turns out I'm not. But there's certain things that Gary told me to do and not to do that I thought, well, I can get away with not doing that, until you can't. Then the world kind of hands you your butt on a platter and you got to kind of go. So I think if I could give one piece of advice to anybody, it would be follow what that man says almost blindly. Just do it. I don't care if you understand why. I don't care if you understand really everything about it. Just do it. And I think 9 times out of 10, you're going to come out a winner. There'll be times where it doesn't work out, same as everything else. But if 90% of the time you're following his advice and you come out on top, it's great. I had a little self-talk about 2 weeks ago. It hit me. It said, for years I've been saying, oh, I wish I'd listened to that guy. I wish I'd listened to that guy. And like, well, am I following him blindly now? And I thought, I'm not. And that's one of those things that, for 2022, I sat there and I said, I got to keep going. I just got to listen to what he does. I see Carlos holding up the red book there, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I think it's blending into the red background there, Carlos. That's a great book. And people say, oh, I read it. I say, great, read it again. Until you can tell me how the economic models work, until you know the margin percentages, the profit percentages, I don't think you know well enough. That book, really understanding it and how it works is huge. People hop onto Teams, for example, and they think, oh, I'm going to go and do it on my own now. It's so much more profitable. But they don't really understand the economics behind a team. Like I think teams now are down to 22% margin. So for every $100 in commission that comes in, the team itself gets down to about 22% of it by the time it's operated everything. Maybe 28 now in our market's a little higher. But I think understanding those economic models, understanding lead gen models, your 8x8, your 12x12s, your 33 touches, understanding how they work, how someone moves from being an unmet to a met, the things you should be doing with your unmets to make them mets, et cetera, are all very, very important things. And again, if you're the person that's in this business because you've got a great personality and a lot of drive, but you're maybe a little bit low on the C on the disc, the analytical side, you may just have to suck it up and do some of that analytical stuff just for a little bit, just to understand it. I know it's not the most fun stuff in the world. Yeah, everyone's having the little twitches now. Don't worry, I get the same way when I go into big social settings. It's just like, ugh. But I think if I was just now starting out, those would be the things. And I guess I remember Gary also saying a few years ago, what would you do to make the most incredible real estate agent? Someone from day one. If you're starting from day one, what would you do? And he said, easy. I'd put him in a room. I'd throw a script book at him. And then he'd say, I don't come out until you know every single word in here. And you can just say it effortlessly. And when he came out, when the person came out of the room and said, okay, I've learned this. He said, great. And he'd throw a telephone back in the room and close the door. And that was it. Like that's how he said he would build it, because he'd teach people what to say. So much in this is knowing what to say. I don't know if anyone's been in situations where, client asks you something and it's just stumped. Like you're just like, I have, maybe you don't even know what they're talking about. Sometimes we end up with clients that know more about us. Never. Okay, you're better than me. I think those things happen to all of us. I think we all get kind of beat or we get put in situations from time to time where things don't make sense. But the more you know, the less that happens.
We see people laughing in the background. Anybody want to share their thoughts? Go ahead. I don't know if Mr. Larry's unmuting there. Or nope. Okay, I guess not. Anyone else? Ms. John, I think you had your hand raised. Oh, there. Go ahead, Ed.
I said, I thought you froze for a second there, Carlos. You were so still for almost 5 seconds.
No, I was looking at you guys. Joanna had the follow-up question, I think.
Go ahead, Joanna.
Oh, I was gonna say that I'm really new too. So for the new agents who wants like extra training but don't want to pay like upfront, I'm part of this training program called Flip Space, and they're really helpful, and I've learned so much from them. And he does a lot of scripting, like James Benson said. So if you are interested in that program, yeah, just email me and then I will connect you to the right agent. But I think most of the people here are very experienced. I'm probably the greenest one. But just in case, if there's people who's as green as me, then message me. And I don't make money off it, just, I'm just sharing. There's no referral fees. I'm just sharing information.
Oh, thanks, John. How'd you hit there, Larry?
Mr. Alex Ferber.
James, just circling back to motivation, what are your favorite questions to ask when qualifying a new person that you're speaking to, just to figure out their true motivation?
So it's a good question. Sometimes it's not the first question that gets it there for me, but it's the follow-up question or the question after that. And I'll give you an example. This is one that always just kind of sticks with me, because it was like, I kept digging, but digging in a nice way. And eventually, what happened and the emotional response to everything just became pretty incredible. When I take someone through a buyer consultation, they'll give me an answer. How many bedrooms do you want in your home? 3. And most agents go, great. They write down 3 bedrooms or 3 to 4 bedrooms or whatever something else is. And, when you get into it, it's like, okay, that's awesome. What are you going to use the 3 bedrooms for? And someone may look at you and say, sleeping. Great answer. But they also could say, well, actually, I want an office in one of them, and, 1 bedroom's for me and 1 bedroom's for my daughter. So I need 3 bedrooms for that reason. And when you ask people questions or you actually understand them, it can be, the relationship gets better when someone starts opening up to you emotionally, or they feel like you're understanding them. You're not just writing down quick little data points. You start to connect better, which A, helps them trust you more, which B, helps you move through deals faster. But it really just gets you into the head of your client and allows you to solve problems. So someone tells me they need the 3-bedroom home because they need an office, and I happen to find a 2-bedroom home that happens to have like a built-in workstation or something like that. Maybe I can find them the home they're looking for that would have fit their budget. Maybe I'm looking now at 2 bedrooms or 2+ dens or whatever it is, that would help them kind of go through it. I had a thing happen a few years ago where I was working with a couple. They lived on my street and they wanted to invest in real estate. And we went through the consultation process, and they wanted to have this money set aside so that they could have their daughters, Megan and Claire. They wanted Megan and Claire each to have a house, so that when that house appreciated, they knew their university was going to be paid for. That was the whole reason they wanted to invest. And so we got investment property, went firm on the deal, and the woman in this relationship, she starts crying, and instantly I'm thinking, what did I screw up here? Like, did I not prep them enough? Did I not walk through these conversations enough? Did I not give them enough kind of background? Like, why is she crying? Did I do something wrong? Is she fearful of something? Whatever it is. I knew I could get through whatever it was, but it's an awful feeling. And then she said to me, I now know how my daughters are going to go to university. I wasn't able to go to university. My parents didn't have the money. It was always this thing for me. I never had the opportunity to go. And she was, she was emotional. She was almost, bringing tears to my eyes when she was kind of going through it. And she always had that kind of thing, or that chip on her shoulder, because she wanted to go to school, or her friends went to school, but she never got to. So I think she never quite felt as good as her friends. It's just one of those little psychological triggers, and we all have them. Just that happened to be hers. And I walked away with 2 things from that. One was, I didn't go deep enough on the buyer consultation to really start to understand why it was important for her that Megan and Claire went to school. I stopped 3 bedrooms, great, check. I almost stopped there. I should have gone, well, why is your kids going to university important to you? How will that change their life? How will that change your life? This all comes back to, again, to motivation. When you start to understand things like that, and you're in a property that's going to work for your client, whether it's a place they're going to live in, whether it's going to be a place that they're going to invest in, when you can circle back and make it all about their motivation. You found a house, it's going to cash flow, you can lease it for them, you can handle all those things. And you just say to them, so if we do this, then, is this house going to be Megan's house or Claire's house for university? Well, this one will be Megan's house. Okay, let's get it done. Because you're making it about not the transaction. You're making it about something bigger. You're making it about the reason for the transaction. So I think that's something that really tends to help, is going in deeper like that. And I remember Mike and I had a buyer consultation with a lawyer a couple of weeks ago. And one of the comments he made to me, I think she said it too, during this process, like she was almost emotional a couple of times, because we were getting really into the motivations and really into what was driving her, what was her reason for wanting to make a move. And I tell you, when you connect with someone like this, your relationship changes entirely. It's not the same as 3 beds, 2 baths, this area. Okay, good. I'm gonna go set up an MLS search and you go. When you actually understand someone as a human, when you actually understand what they need, and when they know you understand them and you know why you're trying to help them or what you're trying to do for them, it changes the dynamic in so many different ways. Now, Alex, I don't know I answered all of your question. I know I went on a bit of a rant there. Is there anything that you asked up front that you need me to come back and maybe go into a little more detail in?
No, absolutely. That knowing that all your questions are driving towards that, that's fantastic.
Yeah, awesome.
Do you guys hear me? I just changed my mic. Yeah, okay, thank you. Has anyone else run into any challenges this year? Has anyone else started to kind of kick things off here in 2022? Is there anything they're running into? Is there any challenge they've had from the past, whether it's client objections or business objections, or has everyone had this really, really smooth, super easy career where there's no friction at all and all these deals get done effortlessly?
Hey, James, Tanya here. How are you?
Good, how you doing, Tanya?
Good, good. So a challenge that I'm facing is I have a lot of friends and family calling me. They want to get into real estate investing, and they just don't have the price point to make it in Toronto. So, I mean, you touched on investing in other areas, which I've been exploring in terms of referrals, maybe some guidance on that as to where you're placing your clients who have money to put into the market, but just not enough to cut it in Toronto. So how can I, still get them into the market?
Okay. So towns I really like: Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, Barrie, Hamilton, London. These are all towns that have pretty strong economic engines. They're not too tied into only one industry. People will say Sudbury, for example. Sudbury is very affected by the nickel mine. Anytime that place goes on strike, for example, you can pick up all your recreational equipment, boats, ATVs, snowmobiles for cheap, because the guys that are not going into the mines or not doing the work anymore are selling all their stuff off. But if you go into a town like I said, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, Hamilton, London, Barrie, etc., very diverse economies, good business-friendly governments. If you look at Kitchener or Hamilton, they're putting down LRT tracks. They're really expanding the infrastructure to be able to handle the influx of population. So very forward-looking communities, forward-looking areas. And then once I have a town like that identified, I typically try and look at a few different options for clients. Something for the person that wants to flip, buy a property, make the renovations and get back out. What do those look like there? What do buy and holds look like there? And then kind of a mixture between the two, because you often get the people that go to investment seminar and they want to learn about, they want to do BRRRRs, right? Buy, renovate, repair, finance. And I just try and find models that work like that. So at least then I can talk intelligently to the clients about what they're looking for or what things go for in that area. Understanding the rents and things like that.
Yes. So maybe I should have started with the price point first. So I'm getting a lot of people. I just placed some people in Hamilton and that worked out fine, but they had about $1 million. So they got in to a triplex there. But if you're in a 500, 600,000 price point, where could you, get them something here? I think the only place is perhaps London. I don't know where else.
London, and then Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge in certain areas, but London's one for sure. We've been putting a lot of people in London for 600 to 635,000, kind of in that range. And you can still get cash flow positive properties down there for that price point, which is rare. I mean, finding anything that cash flows now can be very, very difficult. But London's been a great one as well. If you
have you explored other provinces, James, with referring out to Edmonton or these places, or are you just sticking to Ontario?
I'm sticking to Ontario. Alberta was a big economic hub a few years ago. Oil and gas has come down. Natural gas prices are not going up at all, and if you look at the future of crude oil or oil period, I don't believe in Alberta. I think it's I mean, look at the growth of the electric cars, you know, the greening of the environment, which is all, it's all an important movement. It's all something that needs to happen. But the reality is the one commodity that our economy has been so heavily built on for the past 2 decades is not one that's going to be in high demand, and it's expensive as hell to get out of the ground. So I don't like Alberta. I don't. I could be wrong. Like, I think, you know, 5 years,
Yeah.
10 years down the road,
I mean,
I could be a sucker, but it scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, it has been a boom and bust sort of economy, right? For, I mean, even if you look historically. So the places that you mentioned, though, I mean, it's the math is tough, because even in London, if you're buying something for 500,000, you're getting a townhouse, you're getting 2,000 rental income, and then you're looking at a place like Edmonton, you could get a duplex there for about the same price, and you're getting $4,000. I mean, vacancy and all that, taking that out for a second. How are you speaking to people about cash flow? They're like coming to you and they're like, oh, I want to live off cash flow and I want to, you know, buy in Ontario. And I'm not seeing those numbers anymore in Ontario, that, you know, even till a couple of years ago, where you could get cash flow. It's more a pay down market, I'd say. So how are you having those conversations with people when they have about 500,000-600,000 and they're like, I want cash flow?
Okay, so cash flow is great. And I think, you know, you mentioned London there and saying that, you know, for 600, you don't get it, or 500, you don't get it. But you do. And this is where market knowledge comes into play. And this is where, you know, when I said you have to go deep in each market, you have to understand what a BRRRR strategy is. You look at what other investors are doing. In London right now, they've got an amazing program that allows you to duplex properties. So it's, you know, you take something where you were maybe getting $2,000 of rent for the entire home, and now you're getting $2,800 in rent for that same home. You know, and the city is very friendly with that duplexing. Same thing in Kitchener-Waterloo. There's people that are taking bungalows and duplexing them, taking, you know, semi-detached homes or detached homes and duplexing them, triplexing in some cases. So there are ways to get phenomenal cash flow. You know, it's, you know, if someone says, oh, you can't get cash flow in Toronto right now, like, yes, you can. You know, you're going to have to do some renovation work, but there's stuff to do. There's stuff to make it happen. And I agree with you. In a lot of cases, if you're buying something turnkey right now, it's very much about mortgage paydown. But here's one thing that happens. We've noticed real estate prices going up, and we've noticed them becoming less and less affordable to the average person. That means the average person is now a tenant. So if real estate's going up and all these new people that are coming into the city are becoming tenants, what ends up happening is the same thing that happened probably in the late 80s, early 90s. When you were a tenant, you used to have to like bribe the landlord. It's called keyhole money. Like, because you'd have 12 people looking to lease the place, and you'd throw them $500 plus the rent. And then that way the property manager would choose you. People are bribing to be chosen. What happens is rent goes up and up and up. So it's a mortgage pay down play today. Wait 2 years, wait 3 years, wait 4 years. Maybe it's not. I've got, whenever I look at my portfolio, I always look at how can I get more money out of this houses too. So 2 years ago, I spent $25,000 to $30,000 on a couple of homes, and I took them from getting $1,200 or $1,300 a month in rent to $1,900 a month in rent. If I spend 25 grand on a home, if I finance that entire renovation, meaning I didn't have the cash, but I borrowed it from the bank, that's going to cost me $120 a month, maybe, to carry that debt. So I get $700 more in cash flow, take out $120, I'm up $580 a month by some very small renovations. So there's always things you can do to increase the cash flow in a home. You know, I talked about duplexing or triplexing some of the units, and again, places like London, Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge, they're all friendly with that right now. There's people that are flipping those things, that they will just buy these homes and they'll flip them and turn them right out. You know, the profit margins aren't quite as big as what happens in Toronto, but these guys will make $30,000 to $50,000 on the flip. That's fine if you do enough of them.
Okay, thanks, James.
No problem.
We have a bunch of people lined up. There's a question on chat. Shalima, this is great. Thank you. Just want your advice on sale and pre-construction condo. What is your best for your clients? Should they hold it until close to occupancy or to sell it? I have also Dina raising her hand, and Michael, and I believe Dion is also up to ask a question or mention something.
All right. Who's next here then?
I have a really quick question and then I have to go. I have another meeting. What's one book that we need to be reading?
Oh God, I could look at the stack beside me right now. For real estate focus, I think there's really there's two that I think are really important. And again, I challenge people not just to read these things, but to start to figure out how you can implement something from it in your daily life, because I think that's where the rubber hits the road. I do think the Millionaire Real Estate Agent is important. We've already talked about that. The one thing is something that's again very important, and it's funny because you read it, and I still fumble through into that focusing question. What's the one thing such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? I ask myself that, but I don't know what that one thing is. But it just gives me a guideline or guide rails from which to think inside of when I'm trying to solve a problem. I think those are two phenomenal books. And then the one other book that I think everyone should probably read is a book called Think and Grow Rich. It was written, I think, in the 1920s or maybe even before that, and Napoleon Hill. And I recommended this before, and understand it was written in a time where things were different. So I've had people come back to me and says, that book is sexist. It's like, it was written in the 20s. Everything was sexist back then. Just get over it, get over yourself, and just read it and take the information out. But I think that book, and again, that's one of the ones that I think you reread every quarter. And again, there's action steps in that book that you have to do. And if you don't, hang out where you are at school. And if you want to kind of grow and accumulate wealth and really change your life, then you've got to start taking those action steps that are in that book. Everything we do here requires more work. Life is nothing but work. When you get more clients, you get more work, you get more problems, you get more challenges. You now have administrative challenges where you didn't have them before because your administration is all falling apart. And then you've got follow-up challenges. And then, like every time you take a step forward in this business, it's going to feel like you're screwing up and you're failing nonstop. That's how it is. The more you grow, the faster you go, the more stuff happens. It breaks, it folds, it doesn't work. So just, you always have to be implementing, you always have to be changing. And it's really easy to say and do. There's times where I'm really, really good at it. There's times where I'm horrible at it for months on end, or maybe even slide backwards. But it's all about just trying to take those steps and trying to move forward.
Yeah, Michael, really quick. We're sorry we're over time, but we can extend a few more minutes. Michael, and then Mr. Dion.
Yeah, no, I didn't really have a question. I was just going to share with Tanya an example. We had a client who bought in Hamilton an investment property, and then next thing he knew, he wanted to scale even faster. So he headed over to Alberta, and he found himself a 12-plex. And he put an offer in. It was conditional, I think, on financing and everything like that. Everything was looking good. The appraisal was way less than they were hoping for. The numbers didn't make sense anymore with the with everything they were planning to do, and so they had to pull out, and they just wasted a whole bunch of time going over there and walking through all of it. So they wasted a lot of their time, and I think now they're looking back into Ontario again, despite the higher prices. Goodbye.
Mr. Dion, you look like you might be on a golf course like Larry too. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Hey, James. Yeah. So I've actually been running my business from Barbados for the last year or so. And I'm in the world of mortgages, and therefore, I'm not showing houses and things like that. But I just wanted to jump on some of the things that you mentioned there. In terms of motivation, there's three key motivations that I have found really work with getting people on board with buying investment property. They are, we find people and talk about, would you like to pay off your house in 10 years rather than 30? So pay off your house, set up your kids, set them up for education, and build your wealth for retirement. And James, you mentioned that a great example about that family who was able to pay for their kids' education. And what we found is if we make our conversations about investment property less about property and more about how it serves their life goals, their financial goals, and ultimately when I talk to a client, I say, okay, why are we talking today about investing? It's like, oh, I want to buy some property, but no, that's not enough. I need to know why. And if they need some help, I generally say our clients usually come to us for one of these three reasons. So if you just focus on those three reasons, you'll generally get to what's at the bottom of it. Once you find out what the reasons are, I love to ask, what's your current plan? and their current plan is usually shit. And real estate is significantly better than it. You can show them the numbers, and I love comparing what they're doing to what real estate does. So that's something that that we do. And earlier, Jane, from A to Z, and how to get your client from A to Z. I have clients in my database, as I'm sure you do, who we started talking to 3-4 years ago, and then they buy, and then they don't buy one. They buy two, they buy three, because they just needed to get that first one. They just needed that information to get there. So to that end, you know, this year, multiple times this year, but in particular at your kickoff event, which I think is on Jan 27, I'll be sharing some information around that. If any of you on this call are really eager to get your hands on scripts and marketing material that will guide you on those conversations, you can feel free to email me now. I'm gonna make it available to everybody after kickoff. But if you're on this call and you've said to yourself, I'm no longer just going to be a salesperson, I actually want to be, you know, the expert in the realm of real estate to my client base, then I have some stuff that has worked for decades for our clients and for the realtors that we work with. Carlos, I'm on my phone, so I gave you my email address there if you want to just drop it in the chat. If anybody wants it, I'll email it to you today.
Thanks, Dan. You know, I know, Dion, you and I have very similar styles, and that it's about helping the client and really understanding their needs. And it's funny, the first time I saw your investment presentation, all I could think was, Jesus, did this guy rip off my investment presentation? We were covering so many of the same things, and it's you had your different tweaks on it and stuff. But yeah, no, it's awesome. I like your approach, and yeah, I'm happy to hear you chime in with stuff like that, because you're bang on. You're right, and it's for investment properties or someone's house. When you truly understand the why behind it, not I need a house, but you understand why, and you make it about the actual reason versus the transaction, it changes everything. The motivation is there. You get through things faster. You know, you can have more open, honest conversations with people. They will tell you when they're feeling uneasy and what they're feeling uneasy about, rather than just going quiet and ghosting you. So it is about building that relationship. So
for sure. And actually, there's two things that everybody should just Google after this call. There's a CBC article recently where it says that there's 1 million houses needed in Ontario. If you just Google that, that'll certainly be some fuel to throw in the fire. And the other thing is, if you Google this, 10% of Toronto homeowners own investment property, right? 10%. The question you should be asking your database is, why are you not amongst that 10%? You're going to get left behind, right? So they're two big things that I'm using this year in my scripting.
Yeah, one of the big jokes, and I think this is again a Gary Keller one, and this is just hearing him on stage years ago. I don't think this is in one of his books, but you know, you ask your client, you know, what's the best investment you've ever made in your life? What investments made you more money than anything else? People say, well, my house. It's like, why'd you just buy one?
Love it.
If that is the best thing you've ever done, why have you only done it once? And do you want to talk about how you can do it more? So powerful questions.
Yeah. Cool.
All
Thanks
right,
for the time,
powerful session. So a lot of messaging was happening to me asking when's going to be the Dion and James KW session. Maybe watch out. Well, we're gonna suggest that to the ALC, and we'll see. Anyway, last word, Mr. James, before we call it a day.
I just want to say thanks to everyone for coming on and asking questions. You know, for those of you that put up your hands and probed and asked, you know, good on you. I know it's not always comfortable asking conversations, especially not in front of an audience. You're always scared, like, oh, what am I going to look like? What am I going to sound like? But I guarantee you that your questions helped other people, and thank you for that. It's I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys just coming out and hanging out with me for now. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And that's another KW session brought to you by KW Advantage, KW Energy, and KW Experience. For more, visit our YouTube page at www.youtube.com/C/Keller Williams Insider. And that's it for us. We'll see you soon, and you have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. Thanks, everyone. Hope you had a great game, Larry.
See you in a bit, Carlos.
See you.